Gardening is a great hobby and a great stress reliever and an antidepressant. Many of us take up this hobby with full interest, but very few continue with it. One of the main reasons people discontinue gardening is the lack of success in their gardening journey because of lack of patience and certain silly mistakes they do when it comes to gardening. We'll quickly discuss the top gardening mistakes, both major and minor, and quickly learn how to tackle them one by one. Remember this point, people with great gardens are those who have made many mistakes in the past and learned from their mistakes over a course of time. Also, let me know in the comment box which one among these do you think is the biggest mistake a gardener commits. So let's begin. Emotional breakdown. Sometimes we get attached to our plants emotionally. You might be overjoyed when your plant blooms, and similarly you might be in tears or feel sad when the seeds do not germinate or your plant is wilting and things like that. Whatever it is, you must be practical and always hope for the best and be positive in your approach with full confidence. Improperly sowing seeds, especially sowing them at a wrong depth. Now the question is, how deep should you sow the seeds and how far apart? The general rule of thumb is the seeds should be sown twice as deep as they are thick. For example, if the seeds are 5 mm thick, sow them 10 mm deep. If the seeds are too tiny, like less than 1 mm, just sprinkle them on the top of the soil. Not aware about hardening off process. Hardening up seedlings to the sun, wind and temperature before planting them completely outside will help them thrive. You gradually expose your seedlings to the outside world, mainly the sunlight, and get them acclimatized. Once you get your first leaves on your seedlings, slowly introduce them to the sunlight in an incremental or step-by-step exposure. For example, 1 hour for the first day, 2 hours for the next 2 days, and so on. Killing beneficial insects like the helpful pollinators like honeybees and butterflies, and also the pest-eating insects like the ladybugs, beetles and many more. You can find a very useful video on identifying these insects from a card link at top right corner of this video or from one of my playlists. Overcrowding your plants or planting them too close to each other, especially if you're growing on raised beds or on ground soil. This actually happens when newbie gardeners start growing plants from seeds and sow the seeds too close to one another. Allowing weeds to grow. This is an act of laziness rather than a mistake, but sometimes newbie gardeners are actually thrilled to see some new plants growing and get overjoyed. They're unaware that this will suck out the nutrients from the soil and can cause deficiency issues in your main plant. This also includes not mulching when you have a chance to do it. Pest control. Pests need to be identified and eliminated carefully. Failure to control the pests like aphids, whiteflies, mealybugs and many others can cause heavy damage to your plants. You can watch a video on 5 methods to control these pests from a card linked at top right corner of this video. Planting out of season plants or wrong plants for your climate and then expecting flowers or fruits will often result in disappointment. When you want to grow something, first gain some basic knowledge about the plant or the crop by googling about it and then finding the right time to plant this depending on your climatic zone. Then in container gardening, choosing the wrong container, including the size of the container and the type of the container, like whether it's clay or cement or plastic container. Each of these types have their own benefits and drawbacks, and the best for a beginner in gardening is to use a clay pot for best results. Not performing pruning or hesitating to prune, that is cut the branches at the right time to promote the best new growth. Planting invasive plants close to one another can cause deficiencies in the weaker plants closer to the stronger invasive ones. Here the Darwin's theory, the survival of the fittest applies. Over or under fertilizing. Many beginners assume that plants only need water to grow and bloom. That is not true. Plants do need water, but they also need about 16 different nutrient elements in the soil. At the same time, there is a problem of over-fertilizing or overfeeding them, which can result in damage to your plants. For beginners, best solution is to use organic fertilizers like compost, cow dung and similar stuff, and stay away from chemical fertilizers unless you get a hold of this. It is often a good idea to apply less than what the fertilizer package recommends. overwatering or underwatering. The rule of thumb on watering is to water deeply but infrequently. Newbie gardeners tend to be better at the first part of this rule but not the second part. It's always better to dip your finger to about an inch into the soil to check for the moisture before watering. Some plants need very less watering, like maybe once in a week, for example succulents. So it's a good idea to Google some basics about your plants. Poor sunlight. Sunlight is very important for photosynthesis, that is plant food production. Improperly placing your plants or improperly choosing your garden location can affect your plants. As a general rule, most flowering and fruiting plants need to receive at least about 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight a day. Then, poor soil selection or attempting to grow high quality plants from a low quality soil. You cannot expect to have a maximum or amazing yield without an amazing soil. Plants may grow in a poor soil but might look overall unhealthy and the yield might reduce. Especially in vegetable gardening, preparing a healthy soil is very important. So there we have it folks, that was an episode on gardening mistakes and how to solve them, especially for beginners in gardening. If you found the video useful, please give it a thumbs up and share the video. Also, do let me know in the comment box which mistake you think is the biggest one among these 3 major mistakes. 1. Overwatering. 2. Poor soil or potting mix. 3. Poor sunlight exposure. Happy gardening!